Right, we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. Not the game and performance we probably would have liked to have seen, but a win, and I think maybe that's quite important. Again, it's an interesting concept, and it's something we're gonna have to now sort of weigh up. Is Jacques Ninobar spoke about a couple of weeks ago. He said, sometimes you win games and you don't tick boxes. Like if there's like 11 boxes to tick, you can tick like 5 of them, but you win the game. Other games, you lose the game, but you tick like 10 out of 11 boxes. For me, this was probably a game where we won, but didn't tick a lot of boxes. I don't think we need to panic. A lot of people are panicking, which is fine. If you want to panic, you can panic. I don't think there's a point in panicking. But I do think that this is a warning, a bit of a warning. I think it's a good way of putting it. A stark reminder of that. We can't underestimate teams, and we need to make sure we're on it. And teams are not going to go away. So it's at the end of the day, you got to look at that team and you got to think, right. So what is going to change about this team? And first of all, I think certain personnel will obviously change with this team. You got the likes of a Oxenchair still to come back in. You've got an Andre Pollard still to come back in. I do. I mean, you don't want to sort of create excuses. I do think that Grant Williams incident definitely played a role. I definitely think that we were a bit shell shocked afterwards, and I think we had a game plan that was probably quite sort of centered around Grant Williams, and then all of a sudden that gets taken away, and now we're kind of sort of sitting there readapting and stuff. So yeah, there was a lot to talk about that was bad. There is stuff to talk about that's good. Again, I think annoying for me to if as I said, if we're not winning the World Cup because of that performance, I think that's a hot take, to be honest. Because 3 weeks ago, we were winning everything because of that Australia performance. I think certain things can be true at the same time. We did not play well today. Argentina did play well today. Were we better than Argentina for 80 minutes? Probably. But I think that where it concerns me is that they were just silly errors. And the nice thing, I suppose, is that hopefully those are things that are quite easy to correct, but we need to correct them at the end of the day. And I think certain players, I think will walk away from the game going, shit, I did not give myself a good account. I didn't boost my World Cup chances, and it's gonna happen to. It's gonna be a while before we it's going to be 2 weeks before we see the squad. But some of these players will be a while before they play again, because some of them won't play against Argentina next week and they'll play against the All Blacks. So the nice thing, I suppose, from their perspective is that you get that opportunity to bounce back against the best team, probably the informed team in the world. And that is New Zealand at the moment, the way they're playing. So, yeah, apparently there's a couple of issues. I don't know. Yeah, this new website of ours is having a lot of issues with this player ratings. That's not far off. So if you're having an issue with the player ratings, please let me know what issue you're currently having. I'm about to try them now. Do we think we're having an issue because they're too high or too low, or what do we think what is the potential issue that we seem to be having with them? And I'll try and see if I can sort it out. Alternatively, we might just go into do what we did last week and just do them in the comments. I apologize. We're trying to get this right. We will have it right for the World Cup. There's a lot of different things going on at the moment, obviously, as you think. And we're trying to... Yeah, okay. So it looks like the player ratings on. So what we'll do is we'll just do them in the comments. I'm happy with that. We've got a bit more time than we did last week. So I'm going to get a beer because it's hot. I'm going to put my 6-pack on my table, and we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna have conversations here, people. We're gonna break things down, and in fact, I'm gonna see if this is actually gonna work. Am I gonna disappear? It looks okay. I'm actually taking my jacket off. That's when you know it's getting hectic at people. The jacket's coming off. We're getting stuck in here. We need to have proper conversations. And as long as this doesn't disappear, I'm hoping this is a different enough green. Yeah, it's all right. It'll work. It'll work. The color's gone a bit weird, but it'll work. Okay. All right. So should we get into this? First things first. I need some man of the match nominations. I think our 1 and 2, Stephen Kitsoff and Malcolm Marx, could probably very much be in that chat. I think JC Creel has to be in that chat. I thought that he was a player who had a lot to prove, and I think he proved a lot of people wrong. So I need a couple of nominations here for man of the match from South Africa. Who was your man of the match? So I need 4 names ideally. 4 is the ideal number. So I'm seeing Eben there. I'm seeing Liebach. I'm seeing you're saying Eben, Kitsy, Marks, Faf. Man of the match is Faf or Eben or Creel. Interesting that a lot of people are going after Faf, and yet Faf's name's coming up there. So I'm seeing a lot of Eben Etzebeth. I'm happy to put him in there. I'm actually seeing Stephen Kitsoff. I'm seeing Malcolm Marx. And I'm seeing a lot of JC. I'm going to put JC Cool in. I think that guy, just based on the hate he's gotten, I think that he should be in there. So I'm going to throw in there as well. I'm sorry, Faf. Maybe I might have overrode the chat there a little bit, but it's a bit hard to keep track. So yeah, it's interesting how polarizing some of the opinions are, and what a sound. Because people are talking about Faf kicking the ball aimlessly and being really bad, but at the same time, people are looking at for man of the match. I thought that, again, I do think a couple of decisions that Faf made were maybe a bit poor. I think that last sort of kick right towards the end, I think if he doesn't chip ahead, I think if we hold him to that, maybe we don't concede that last try. But I thought on defense, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I thought he made a couple of cover tackles, a couple of last ditch tackles. People sometimes, wonder, well, why is Faf play? Why is he so important? Look, first of all, he is usually a very good box kicker, but his defense is second to none. There is not a better defensive scrum half in the world. I'll happily take on that chat. You will not find a better one-on-one tackler and reader of the game than Faf de Klerk. He is brilliant at it. He's absolutely brilliant. I mean, I reckon that Jacques Nienaber arrived, saw Faf de Klerk, and basically said, right, we're doing a rush defense purely on the fact that I've got this guy who's just unbelievable when it comes to his defense. I genuinely think we might have just molded around it because he's so good at it. I also think that something like JC Creel was really... it really played to his strengths today. The fact that there was a lot of defending to do. We scored that try, the match-winning try in the end, from a JC Creel tackle. So I'm chuffed for him because I think we know he's had a lot of abuse, and a lot of it's unjustified. Some of it, I can understand some of the chat, but a lot of it's unjustified. A lot of it's very unfair and misdirected, I think. And I think a lot of the time he just gets a lot of blame for not being the Kanya at the end of the day. But I thought today we saw the value that JC Creel can and still does bring to the side. And I'm hoping people will understand that. And 2 things can be true at the same time. Is he one of the best number 13s in the world? No. Is he as good as a Kanya when the Kanya is playing well? No. Is he a very reliable, very solid outside center that 9 times out of 10 will not let you down? Yes, he is. And you need players like that. He's reliable. You need a player you can fall back on if there's injuries and you think, right, you know what? He'll do his job and he'll do it pretty well. There's always going to be a come down certain places, If you've got a world-class... like a Malcolm Marx. When Malcolm Marx is playing well, he's a brilliant hooker. He's not Malcolm Marx. There's certain players... if you're deputizing for Anton DuPont, you could be one of the best... You could be the second best scrum half in the world. You're still not the best. You still a step down. And that's kind of the case, I feel that what's happened with JC Creel is that because the Kanya was playing such good rugby in the last few years, that by comparison, we've now decided, nah, he's terrible. He's not. He's really not terrible. And again, if you watched today's game, the match-winning try he created, and a lot of try-saving tackles as well. So if you can't acknowledge that, if you can't watch that and acknowledge that, you don't want to acknowledge that. And if that's your agenda, you agenda away. But let's recognize when players play badly as well as when they play well. And in his case, he played well today. Let's recognize that. Similarly, I thought Curtly Arendse didn't play particularly well today, and he has been a player that everybody's been sort of been throwing around as has to play, has to start. Mapimpi's finished. Today was a bit of a reminder that you can have bad games. Players will have bad games, and sometimes you need to understand that and be ready for those bad games. And you've also got to accept that there will be bad games. You can't be upset that players aren't dropping 10 out of 10 performances every single weekend, because it just doesn't happen. It's the reality of professional sport. This is not always going to happen. So I think we need to understand that. And I think today, and this is not a criticism of Springbok at all, Andre Pollard would have suited that game today. I think we would have been probably a bit more solid, a bit better, and I think we would have been a bit structurally more sound if Andre Pollard was playing that today. And that's not a criticism towards Springbok. I think it became an absolute dogfight. It became a slugfest. It was sloppy. It was poor. And I think those are the kind of games that Pollard kind of comes into his own. Because he's not a particularly expansive, expressive fly half when he plays for the Boks. But he's very solid. And, he would have kept the ball pretty well. He would have just moved the game left to right and kind of played what's in front of him in a very direct and simple way sometimes. And sometimes you need that. So I thought Springbok wasn't bad today, but I think that we weren't getting clean ball, we weren't getting front foot ball, and we then were then trying things when they weren't necessarily on. I enjoy, the idea of going for a cross kick. That the kick pass, for example, can work, and I like the fact that we're trying these things. But I think sometimes we just need to be a little bit more direct and kept it a little bit more simple. We went out there trying to play an expansive game plan. The skill set wasn't quite there. Lots of silly knock-ons. And I think that we didn't really adapt to that. Once the game got messy, it just kept getting even messier. So as I've said, there's not a criticism towards Springbok as well, because I actually think he was pretty good today. I think he was pretty decent. But I just think that it was a game where Pollard might have suited the actual what was going in front of him in a slightly better way. And that's interesting, that whole sort of concept, isn't it? Of a player that didn't play badly, but maybe a player who's slightly different might have suited that particular game. And that doesn't mean that other players bad. For example, defensively today, if Jesse Kriel wasn't playing today and the Kanye wasn't having a good defense today, for example, things might have changed a bit. If Patrick de Klerk was not playing today and we had a different scrum came off the bench, we might have struggled a bit more because he might not have been good defensively. So it's just, and that doesn't mean that other players are bad. It's just horses for courses sometimes. And so there's a lot to talk about, a lot to sort of analyze, which we'll do a lot of in the next few weeks. We've got fan camps currently coming up. We're gonna have about 3 or 4, so go and see what the hot takes and the rants are. But let's go and I've given you guys enough time to vote for man of the match, because we are going to use the poll function for the ratings. And we are then going to, so we've done our man of the match. So Evan Etzebeth is going to win that with 45% of the votes. And Stephen Kitzel comes in second, Jesse Kriel at third, Malcolm Marks at fourth. I think it's pretty fair, actually. I think you guys have nailed that one. Let's see if we nailed the rest of them. So we're going to go through basically every single player, and we're going to give them a rating of between 1 and, or you're going to options of 2, 4, 6, and 8. So that's what we're going to do. Unfortunately, as I said, the website's not working. We will try and get that sorted as soon as possible. And hopefully we'll have that sorted by, if not by next week, we'll definitely have it sorted for the World Cup, to be fair. There it is. And I can't dwell on it too long, because otherwise we're going to be here forever. I do want to wrap this up by about 8 o'clock, so you guys can all get to the rest of your evenings. So basically, the rule is, once we get to 50 votes, I'm going to close it, and we'll kind of go from there. And if I have time, I'll try and put out a video where we can then actually list the ratings that everybody got. We're going to get to 50 votes. So as soon as I put the poll out, I need you guys to get involved there nice and quickly. Stephen Kitov, I thought, was absolutely immense. I don't think he put a foot wrong. You can see the penalty, but some clutch turnovers, good physicality, good defense. The scrums, I thought we deserved a bit more out of it. I thought we could have gotten a bit more out of it. And yeah, maybe it's a referee interpretation thing that we need to look at in terms of why we weren't getting the reward for it. But generally, I thought Spicy Plum was top notch and playing probably some of the best rugby I've seen him playing ever. So we got 51 votes there. It's interesting. And after everyone's sort of meltdown that we're currently, our first player that we're going to rate, it does help that he did have a storm of a game, is going to get an 8. And we're then going to do Malcolm Marks. I'm actually going to keep this to surnames. 2, 4, 6, and 8. So go and vote for Marks. Give myself 50 votes there, and so we can see it. If we don't get to 50 votes quick enough, then we'll drop it down to 40 votes. But I'd like to get to 50 votes. Stephen Kitsoff ended up with an 8, which I think is probably about right. I thought he was very, very good, and he's becoming a very important player, especially the fact that we don't have a lot of loose heads. I don't think Trevor looked bad when he came on. He didn't have a lot to do scrums wise. Again, I think he deserved a lot more. I think he could have won at least 1 or 2 scrum penalties. I'd like to see Trevor play against. In fact, I wouldn't even take Stephen Kitsoff to Argentina. I'd take Trevor, start him, and bring on Thomas Totoy, and give Trevor a proper outing at Lucid. Right, so we're going to close the vote there. Malcolm Marks also getting an 8. Which again, I think he was very good. A different class, isn't he? And I think those two very much kept us in the game when things were going a bit badly early on. Francois Herber, who I don't think had his best game. Again, I probably could have gotten another penalty or 2 at the scrum time. But such is life. So I'm going to throw that poll out for France. And let's go and see what you guys are going to vote him for. Well, by the way, did we get to 35,000 subscribers? I don't think we did. I think you guys are slacking on us. Yeah, you guys are slacking on us. You're 34,500. Really hoping to try and get to that 35,000 subscribers mark. We do have a Formula 1 race tomorrow. So if we don't get the rugby guys to do it, hopefully the Formula 1 guys will get there, which should be quite cool. We have done about 200,000 views today, which is exciting. But let's keep it up. Let's keep up the momentum, shall we? Right, so Francois Herber sitting on 47 votes. Can we get to 50? Yeah, the knock-on was dreadful. It was dreadful. I think we can all admit that there's not Francois Herber's finest hour. But his tackling was pretty solid, and scrummaging is always good, isn't it? So I think it's 6 about right for Malcolm Marks. For Francois Herber. I'm going to go with Ed Sabethia. He did win man of the match, so I'm expecting big things out of this. Albert saying everybody had a knock-on in the game. You're not wrong. You are not wrong at all. It was that kind of game. I mean, Billy Lou had a dreadful one as well, which was very, very un-Billy like. How many votes we got? Etzebeth, there we go. Right, he's going to get 8 as well. So pretty high ratings here, to be honest. It'll start to fall eventually, I'm sure. Right, Marvin Ori, who I thought was having a very solid game until a knock-on, and then he went off, unfortunately. Marvin Ori did his job. He was pretty solid at the lineouts, got through a bit of work. A couple of people were actually commenting on the fact that he was looking a bit better and stuff. But recency bias. I think people will probably remember the knock-on as his last impact that he had, which I think is a bit unfair because he did a lot more than just that. I mean, we didn't lose the lineout, and he was a primary line operator for that first half, where I think we did probably have more lineouts. We had more possession. He also made 8 tackles, not missing a single one. So I don't think you can ask much more from a lock, to be honest. 53 votes. Going to close that. Where we ended up here. Ended up with a 6. I think that's fair. I think it's fair. I don't think he was brilliant. I think he was pretty solid. I don't think he was dreadful. Mark Van Staden, a player who goes from being incredibly important to why is he there in a very short space of time. I thought he had a quiet game today. He had 1 or 2 decent runs. Again, we didn't have much go forward ball, and he was so good with ball in hand against Australia. He didn't have that opportunity a lot today, so it wasn't sort of as impactful, I suppose some people will say. Some of the comments over here, Saxman saying our backline looks planless because they often receive the ball as a last resort from Faf and often are out of position. I think today very much probably the case as well. We never really had that front foot ball where we could really get our backline going. So 52 votes. Escom's going to get a 6. I think that's about fair as well. I think he definitely wasn't the game it was at Loftus. Or getting an opportunity probably also, going against him. Didn't have as much opportunity to carry the ball in hand. But I don't think he did a lot. He's fine on defense, but not much on the ground either. I don't think he had any turnovers, but I can remember. So PSF Toy, I thought was just when I thought PSF Toy was really sort of turning a corner and getting back to his old self. I thought today he wasn't a great game from PSF the Toy. A couple of silly mistakes, seeing a couple of penalties. Look, he made a lot. I mean, look, defensively, his numbers were off the charts. So I think he made about 20 tackles. So defensively, you can't even actually argue what he did. But maybe he's also the victim of his own downfall in terms of we expect so much of him. He's a World Player of the Year. So we expect so much from him that when he's not, breaking down the door, we're getting a bit frustrated. So I thought he was pretty good in defense. He did miss a few tackles, but got around the park, put in a lot of work. But a couple of uncharacteristic errors, a couple of silly penalties, for example. I do think he is looking a bit fitter around the park. So I'm hoping that his game will continue to sort of trend upwards, but not firing on all 4 cylinders at the moment. It'll be interesting to see if Franco Master gets an opportunity next week, how he goes with a bit of game time. Let's go with Dwayne, who I thought was once again probably showing that he maybe deserves to be the incumbent number 8. This is what his game reads like. 7 carries, making 57 meters, 10 tackles, 1 miss of turnover, 1 bad pass. I thought it was a pretty solid outing there for Dwayne. Nice physicality, very good leadership. I thought, very calm head. So whilst he is coming towards the end of his career, I think that we look at him and I think take away the age part. If you didn't know about the age part, you're sitting there going, yeah, he still has a lot to give. He's still at that level. And the player ratings are suggesting that. So you'd probably end up with about a 7.5 if this was the normal system. He's going to end up with an 8. And so I'm glad that people are acknowledging the fact that he's playing like that. I'm not going to put Grant Williams out there. So I'm going to move straight to SPRINGBOK. And let's see what people have to say. I'm interested to see how this vote's going to go, actually. Some of the comments whilst you guys vote. Albert saying PSF gave a lot of penalties. Yo saying Dwayne had some good runs. Scotland played Italy today in 125-13. Interesting result. I'm going to watch that tomorrow. Evan says Premier looks strong in the first half but failed in the second. Kevin says Fuel still has fuel in the tank. I'd like to see him in Rugby World Cup. Contender saying scrum with Mbonambi looked a bit weak. Maybe send Dion to Argentina and give him a crack at 2 so we actually test utility. I don't think Dion Free will ever start a game at hooker. He's too lightweight, to be honest. Your player ratings are ridiculous. Well, they're not my player ratings. They're your player ratings. I don't even vote in them. I don't even get to have a say in them. I literally get absolutely nothing to do with them. I throw them out there and the community votes. If you don't like what the 50 people you're voting, of the 350 people over here, I can't help that. My bad, dude. I cannot help it. I've got no say in it whatsoever. I just throw it up there and you guys do the voting. Sharpshooter said Levi gets a 6. He does get a 6. Really had nothing to work with thanks to the poor performance in front of him. It will be interesting, though, if people are happy to use that excuse for him, where they were very happy to not use that excuse for Damian Willemse 2 weeks ago. And maybe it's my frustration is that, we don't get apples to apples when it comes to comparing players. But again, it is a problem when your pack is not giving you clean ball. I thought Levi kicked very well for touch. I thought his cross kicks, they weren't bad. I'm not sure there's the right options all the time. I just think I would have liked to have seen him grab hold of the game a little bit more when things were going a bit pear-shaped. And again, it is the experience. He's playing, his 5th test, the 2nd test start. And does he have the experience yet to really sort of walk into the middle of a group and say, right, this is what we're doing. You're going to do this, you're going to do that, and really start directing things. He'll grow into that role, there's no doubt about it. He does it for the Stormers. But it is something where he's going to have to learn from a test perspective to be able to sort of get involved in that that sort of thing. So next is going to be Kirkley Arnser, who I thought was, didn't have a great game. I actually could understand the substitution when in fact, I thought the Kanyama actually looked a bit better when he came on today. Had a couple of nice touches. So hopefully he's just building a bit of fitness and we're sort of moving in there. So yeah, I don't think it was his best game. I think that what we saw today is that he is human. For example, he's still scoring it over a try a game. So didn't score a try today, but I'm sure he'll be on the try scoring sheet once again very, very soon. But again, it's a word of warning. Yes, some of these players, especially players coming through, are very excited. They deserve all the hype. He deserves all the hype. He's still young. He's still new to his test career. He is going to have ordinary games. I thought today was probably an ordinary game. It wasn't a bad game, but wasn't great. He's going to end up with a 6, which I think is probably about right as well. Yo said Liebig's not there, but he is growing. Alex says Liebig at least brings a secure kicking option. Why I did miss one. Saxman said the Argentines got better of us in one of the one-on-one collisions. Was surprising. New Zealand also did last match. We have an over-reliance on returning players expected to come back in peak performance. Well, I think much like lots of teams, it's about getting players up to playing their best rugby. Argentina having the same thing. Michael Checker spoke about it. He said that a lot of it's about getting players back who haven't played in a while, getting minutes into them, trying to make sure that they're playing their best rugby. And I think we're going through a bit of a similar process. There's definitely players who have gotten better. I thought Damien Delende was a lot better today than he was 2 weeks ago. I thought that Dwayne Vermeulen was once again pretty good. So I thought Jason Cole was pretty good today as well, actually. Could get around there. But yeah, and they say, oh, well, everyone's an old and unreliable player. I mean, I think that's pretty yawn, to be honest. Basically, a lot of fans will write off any player that gets to about 30 years old. By then they're old, and they're like, oh, what's this guy? He's taking your place for the younger player. And they're just like, well, he's 29 years old. He played for another 2 World Cups. We do have our pretty set squad, and that is the squad that's going. Is it good enough to win the World Cup? I think it is, if they all play to the best of their abilities. Are they all playing to the best of their abilities? No, I think that's probably the concern. That doesn't mean their careers are finished, for example. Some players are just going through bad patches. Some players are going through better patches. But Test rugby is a very different thing to URC, and it's very easy to go and look at a player who's played well in the URC and decide that he has to go to the World Cup and he should be starting. Yeah, Tian say thought Damien Delende played pretty well, actually. His yellow does count against him, unfortunately. Yeah, I thought he was very unlucky for the yellow card. And yeah, I thought he improved. Apparently, it was Rion was at the game and was saying, like, apparently his work is off the charts. He was absolutely everywhere. So yeah, we do see things. We do see things very differently on TV than you do in at the stadium, for example. Right. Show some respect on my boy's name. He's a nice guy. He just wants to play some good rugby. And today I thought he really stepped up. I thought that, in the game where defense was the name of the game, he rose to the occasion incredibly, incredibly well. I'm very proud of Jesse Creel. He gets, the fact that Six is leading is just ludicrous. It is absolutely ludicrous that you're going to give Dwayne Vermeulen an 8. And I thought Dwayne played well, but to give Dwayne Vermeulen an 8 and the fact that Jesse Creel is not getting a clear 8 is literal clear bias. And it's like, oh, you just like Creel. No, he played well today. Literally, what did he do wrong? Give me one thing he did wrong. He almost dropped the ball after. He dropped the ball over the try line when he could have scored. The guy charged the ball down and just couldn't re-get it, like fingertip stuff, diving forward to a ball that's coming over his shoulder. He caught last minute. The fact he got there to make the charge down is pretty well played. There's a couple of times actually where they were under pressure and he was there first often. So this is an example of agendas. To sit there and say that Dwayne was an 8, that Evan was an 8, Kitsoff was an 8, Marks was an 8, and Jesse Creel was a 6 is ludicrous. It is absolutely ludicrous. Creel could not organize one attack and never will. He had 2 carries, I think, 2. One, he actually gassed down the left-hand side, still managed to bring in Curly Lawrence into play. And the other one, he offloaded to Colby, and then Peter Steph-Toy stepped out. What do you want him to do? Not a single time, literally not a single time, did he ever get the ball with space and options around him. Ever. If Lukanya got the same service today, if Lukanya played the game he played today, Jessica played today, we would get an 8. There's not even no doubt about that. And this is where the agenda comes to agenda. You know, we didn't play well in attack, but nobody did. You know, he for me was the standout backline player by a country mile. And if you don't think he was, I'd love to know which game you're watching. Gooi me a feed, and let's review it, because I clearly didn't watch that game. Right, anyway, let's do Colby. Rolls Royce type of player, isn't he? He made 9 tackles, not missing a single one. 2 turnovers conceded, 2 turnovers, one bad pass. 31 meters made, 1 clean break, 1 offload. Yeah, not as much to do with ball in hand. Wasn't a bad game, but again, you know, it's difficult to say. You know, when you don't get the opportunity to really sort of put your best foot forward, the wings are always going to suffer. I think our wings need to get a bit better under the high ball. I tell you what, if I'm a pimpy, I'm sitting there going, listen, there's a couple of those high balls that I reckon I'm getting, and that's maybe what a lot of people need to start considering. That as much as we do like Curtly Lawrence and we like Colby and we like the scrum cap duo, and it's all fun when you attack, when you go to the aerial game, and we're going to get peppered, who's good in the air? Do we have people who compete in the air? And Mapimpi is definitely better in the air than a Curtly Lawrence is, because he's more physical. Look, Curtly Lawrence is great, and he's not bad in the air at all. I'm not going to sort of knock him. For example, same as Kenny Moody's very good in the air. So at 6 for Colby, I think he'd probably be about a 7 if we were doing the normal ratings and the way we normally did it. So it feels a bit harsh. I thought he got up to a lot, to be honest. I thought Billy was. I'll be interested to see what this rating will be, actually, because I think apart from the knock-on, I'm trying to think of a mistake he made. I mean, a great try assist, almost 2 try assists. He didn't miss a tackle. Actually made a couple of nice tackles. Had a clean break. I'm trying to think of, yeah, if there were any sort of, as I said, literally the drop, the pretty bad knock on. We all know this. But I thought his kicking for touch was once again very good. I think that's something he's definitely worked on in the past. So 6 feels harsh. I think that he probably would have been a 7 again. And yeah, right. Let's go to the bench, shall we? Bongles. I actually thought it looked a bit brighter today. Didn't have a lot to do, but made a couple of nice tackles. I want to see if ball the ball. I mean, he made a lot of tackles. He made 7 tackles, missing just 1 in 22 minutes, by the way. So that's a tackle every 3 minutes, which is pretty good. So pretty happy with that. But yeah, please do keep voting. I'm going to actually bring it down to 40 votes for the subs to try and get through this. Although we are getting up to 50 votes, so to be fair. Bongi getting a 6. I'm happy with that, actually. I think that's about fair. I think that's about right. I actually did think he looked a bit brighter. Trevor, again, I mean, didn't have anything. I mean, I think he got 1 carry, maybe. I thought that they deserved more from the scrums. I thought that I think he was definitely getting the better of Joel Slavy. He made 8 tackles in 22 minutes, 3 carries. I'm really hoping we get a proper Trevor time next week. He's looking at a solid 6 at the moment, which I think is about fair. I think Vincent Koch probably get the same thing. So we got to 40 votes there. And then we've got Koch. Again, I think probably a 6. I didn't have a lot to do. Slipped 1 or 2 tackles, made about 7 tackles. So, I mean, the front row we were very busy in defense. He carries the ball well as Vincent Koch. That's why I like him off the bench. He is a very good ball carrier. Decent scrummager, but his ball carrying ability is probably where he sort of, look at Franz Verheerber. Franz Verheerber's a scrummager. Vincent Koch's good in the loose. Different type of players. Again, a 6 is probably about right for Vincent Koch. Archie Snyman, I thought he looked very bright and then kind of faded off a little bit. When he first came on, I was very much like, oh yeah, here's the Archie we know. And here we go. So it's Snyman. Yeah, so I thought that's Snyman. I think he's getting there. I'd still keep bringing him off the bench and keep bringing some game time into that. Yes, I think Cheika's up to his tricks. His plan was with weaker teams like Oz and Arj is to bring the opposition down, make the game an ugly arm wrestle, which is good against the Box. 100%. We definitely were playing their rugby today. Yanni says Puma's come back strong. Hope our game plan will be better. And Faf is no for me. Yeah, Faf doesn't play today. And I think we conceded about 3 more tries. Frank says, we don't seem to play well at Ayers Park lately. All Blacks skinned us last year and Argentina did the same today. It seems games are more frenetic and intense at Ayers Park. We ran out of space quick. It'll be interesting to see what our last 4 or 5 years at Ayers Park sort of results do look like. But anyway, so Snayman's going to get a 6. I think most of the defense will get a 6. Then we're going to go Quacker Smith, who I thought was actually I like him off the bench. I think he is a very good bench player. I think he adds that energy. Very good over the ball. I thought he probably actually looked a bit more effective than Marco Verstappen. He made cheap as me. He made 14 tackles in 25 minutes, by the way. 14 tackles in 25. That is mental. Missing just 1. That is more than a tackle every. That is literally a tackle every 2 minutes. It's actually more than a tackle every 2 minutes. That's us. Man gets around, eh? Man gets around. Yeah, that's serious good work rate. Say a couple of times I thought Archie was slow off the deck. Klein is ahead of Archie at the moment. It's Hansi. Archie slacks what power now? Well, I think Billy's saying staying power. Yeah, I think he's just building up into full fitness. Creel was not a good. Creel was a good. And I'm sorry. I'm talking to a dog apparently. So yeah, he was good today. And if you can't see that, I don't understand what game you watched. I'm all for not liking players, but if you can't admit when someone that you don't like plays well, I don't think sport, or definitely punditry, at least, is for you. Right, Spaff. I'm interested to see how this one goes. A lot of debate. And then we're just going to rank Lacania. I'm not even going to bother Damien. So the poor egg got, what, 2 minutes? Yeah, 2 minutes. It made 2 tackles. Come on, Damien. Needs to get in game time. I think he'll start at 15 next weekend. Well, maybe, I don't know. I don't know what we do with Damien. Pap is a type between a 6 and an 8. Interesting. He's going to get an 8. I think that's very interesting. Because I think that's been the most polarizing opinion. People have either loved what Faf did or hated what Faf did. There's been no in between. Which is interesting. It is interesting. That's why I do the show. I find it very, very fun. And then the last one we're going to rate is who came on at wing. Looked a bit better. I don't know about you guys. I thought he looked a bit better today. Get a couple of nice touches. Didn't have much to do. Also, when you look at Faf de Klerk as kicking, I've had this kicking debate so many times. I'm actually bored of it. First of all, the best teams in the world kick. So you got to get used to it. France kick, Ireland kick, everybody kick, and it's not like they kick that differently to us. It's about execution at the end of the day. We kick for territory, and we kick to move the game along. So if we're moving forward, we tend to keep ball in hand. As soon as we don't move forward, and look, to be fair, most teams do that. As soon as you start moving forward, and as soon as you start progressing, you go to the boot. And that is the reality. And some teams it works really well. Again, you know, if we were better under the high ball today and we collect a lot of that, because to be fair, a lot of what we kicked today was contestable, but we didn't contest particularly well. So, you know, is that down to the kicker? Is that down to the chaser? A little bit of both. For example, New Zealand today out-kicked Australia. Just a fun fact. So you've got to get used to the kicking. You've got to understand that the best teams in the world and all game plans are built around a kicking game. It's about the execution of that becomes the issue. But here we go. So Amma's going to get a 6. I think that's about right, to be fair. But yeah, I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to bother rating poor Damien. He got like 2 minutes, so there's no point. But let's go and reconvene in the week, shall we? For those of you who are very upset about today's results, I'm sorry. I'm not happy about it. I'm not going to let it ruin my weekend. We won a rugby game. And we do need to improve. There's no doubt about that. I'm not going to try and deflect that at all. But again, I'm not gonna freak out and over that game. I think that there are big questions that have been raised. I think we need to reassess certain parts of our game. I think we need to reassess certain combinations. I still think certain players need some game time. So I'm very interested to see what the squad will look like, which will be announced on Tuesday. And then I think next weekend will be a very different team. I think we will see an Andre Estes and Jesse Creel center combination. I actually hope we do see it. I do think that Creel deserves another game at outside center. And then, again, bring him off the bench if you want to. But yeah, sometimes you win well, sometimes you win ugly. Today we won ugly and we move. I'm going to go have a few drinks. I might even go meet up some mates. I suggest you guys do the same thing. Don't let this bring you down. And enjoy your weekend, people. It's a game of rugby at the end of the day. To say that our World Cup chances are gone because we beat Argentina, we didn't beat Argentina enough, is a wild take for me. So I think if you're going that far, then I think you're in for a long few months. I certainly did not see enough tonight to say that the World Cup's a write-off. But I do think it's warnings, and I do think you need to have those warnings. You need to have those games where you sit there going, right, boys, we had that in the first game against British Irish Lions, and if you watch the documentary, there was that moment where it's said, I think it's time we start getting our respect back here. And you do have to have those rude awakenings where you go, no, actually, boys, not good enough. We won the game, we got lucky, but we need to learn from this. And as long as we're moving forward, as long as we're learning from our bad things, anything can happen. New Zealand are red hot at the moment. One bad game, they can crash out of the World Cup. Box are sort of here and there at the moment. One good game puts them into a semi-final. One good semi-final puts them into a final. Playoff rugby, anything can happen. What we do know, though, is I think that we're seeing certain players who should be going to the World Cup. I think our World Cup squad is starting to take shape. And there are certain players who are under pressure that will make the squad, but they're under pressure. And there are certain players who will make the squad and will know that they are actually in serious intention to actually start playing games because of the way they're playing. So yeah, people, we'll see you guys on Monday for the next live show. We'll be live tomorrow for Formula 1. So if you'd like to come and join Mark and Reese tomorrow, that'll be very much appreciated. It is the Belgium Grand Prix. It is at Spa. So it's a fun race. It's a cool race. And it's been raining all weekend, but hopefully tomorrow it'll be a bit drier. Please do smash the like on the way out. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. We are trying to get to 35,000 subscribers. We need less than 500. It'll be quite nice to be able to get to that mark by the end of the weekend. And as we try and push to 40,000 subscribers before the World Cup. But that's all kind of down to you. People, keep well, keep safe. Have a good evening. Have a good weekend. And I'll see you guys on Monday.